Hey, so today I want to talk about Eli Roth's 2005 film Hostel. Now, before I talk about it, I want to talk about this genre of, torture porn gore film that kind of boomed with 2004's Saw and that propelled throughout 2005 when Hostel came along, and then this genre kind of almost dominated the decade of 2005 to 2011 ish. So, before I talk about this film, I want to kind of talk about the state of this genre of films in the last 2 decades, because I would say that this genre is kind of a genre that has no masterpiece. This genre has kind of almost always been mediocre. By no means I count Saw as a masterpiece film. It's a really good film, but it's not a masterpiece. So this is where this kind of genre has been. But even though there are other kind of adjacent horror genres like slasher genre, where Halloween is a bona fide masterpiece, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a masterpiece. So that's kind of where my opinion is and how I see this genre of film. So now if you talk about Eli Roth's Hostel, it's his original film, he has written it, and I like this film. This film has a lot to offer, and I feel like even in 2021, I just saw Spiral and I was kind of disappointed it, and it was neither a good Saw movie or neither a good horror movie. You can watch the review up here. But if we talk about Hostel, Hostel was released in 2005, and this film has a chilling, palpable tension that you can't really get from films nowadays, or at least this genre of film nowadays. Hostel is set in a different exotic location, and there a lot of things happen that doesn't really happen in traditional American films, and that's the thing I like most about this film. Now I've known about Saw for like more than 15 years, and I've known about this premise for like more than 10 years. So when I wanted to finally saw this film, I kind of imagined what I'm going to be in for and what kind of film this is going to be, but it's not like that, because the cinematography, the atmosphere, and the vibe of the film is very chilling, and the score definitely kind of sometimes gets on your nerves, and the way Eli Roth portrays this film and visualizes it is very different than I believe any of the other films in this genre has to offer. Now, a lot of films have actually criticized this film for kind of glorifying the torture porn genre, because I think this genre is much more solidified in Hostel than in Saw, because Saw has completely different purposes, even though Eli Roth and James Wan has repeatedly defended them, and they did not try to glamorize the violence or kind of try to uh, just make it a show of it or kind of sell the movie on the basis of this. And you can definitely see this in Hostel. In Hostel, it definitely does not work like that. Eli Roth leaves a lot of things up to your imagination, because sometimes when we're in a distressing situation, a lot of things that kind of haunts us or kind of hammers at us is the things that we do not actually see, but our imagination fills in the gaps, and that's where the horror comes from. A lot of it actually happens here. But when the gore happens, it happens kind of like a 0 to 100 in a real quick way, and in that way you have to be kind of ready for it. But now, if you are a fan of the genre, or even if you have dabbled in French extremities film, this is not like that at all. If you've seen French film, this is a very mild film. This has minimum gore and it's quite tame by comparison. But if you are not a fan of the genre and just want to dabble or just see some film, I would definitely recommend Hostel. I would recommend Saw and I would recommend Hostel. Otherwise, off the top of my head, I can't really see myself recommending any other films in this genre. But if you want to dabble even further down the rabbit hole, I think Martyrs is a really good film that kind of hoses water and has something to say about it, rather than just being pure gore. That's why with the whole context of this, I give Hostel 4 out of 5, and I believe that it still holds really well in 2021. Whether you like it or not, I kind of liked it.